Hey guys, in this video I'm going to do a product review of Vivid's new indestructible vinyl film wrap. You can see I have two rolls here, one in black and one in gray, which are the two colors that's available currently in their indestructible vinyl wrap. This vinyl is a new release for 2020. They released it, Vivid released this earlier, I think around the end of June officially. I think they were trying to release it earlier in the year, but due to the COVID pandemic, was not able to release these new vinyls until June or this past summer. So I have here two rolls, as you can see, and I'll be doing a review of how it conforms and acts or compares to regular vinyl in application, but also to test its indestructibility or indestructible-ness. You can see that this is a very rough surface vinyl. It looks like rhino liner or bed liner that you would put in your truck, maybe even undercoating. It is a very thick vinyl as compared to other standard vinyl wrap for color change, for example. It's even thicker than other vinyls such as, that I could tell, at least immediately in just touching it, such as your carbon fiber vinyls or even other brands that tend to be thicker in color change type. Again, this is a labeled as an indestructible vinyl, intended to be a very tough protected vinyl, almost like a paint protection film of sorts, and so it is a little bit thicker and supposed to be more durable. So in the tests that I'll do, one, I'll try to apply it like regular vinyl and see how it acts as compared to color change vinyl, but then two, do a couple of tests to see its durability and how tough it actually is. Alright guys, so in this part of the video I'll be doing a quick review of an up-close review of Vivid's indestructible vinyl. As you can see, I've got a sheet cut out already, and just already I can notice that just from the size of this sheet that I've cut out, which is not too big, it's probably a little bit more, 18 inches is that ruler there, so probably about 19 inches by about 11 inches. This chunk of vinyl is actually significantly heavier than regular vinyl wrap. So for example, like this piece of Avery, even though it is smaller, this thing is, it feels like it's the weight of a piece of paper. This feels like a bunch of piece of paper put together. I don't know the exact weight, but it is definitely heavier than regular vinyl. Doing a little bit of research, I discovered that this vinyl is super thick, which helps lend to its indestructible-ness. It is approximately or supposedly 20 times thicker than your standard vinyl wrap. I'll see if I can get the camera to get a good, to zoom in to see the thickness there, which it likely will not be able to do. See if I can get this to do it better. No, it doesn't necessarily want to do it. But anyway, so it is super thick. I'm just peeling this piece off here. It doesn't feel like regular vinyl, and that's for sure. It feels kind of like, almost like really thick, tough, almost like gelatinous rubbery. It doesn't feel like rubber, but definitely doesn't feel like regular vinyl, like this piece of Avery, for example. As far as the adhesive goes, it's a little sticky, but it's not super sticky. I mean, it has kind of a unique, I don't know, gooey feel to it, but it doesn't leave a residue. It's kind of hard to describe, guys. It looks like it does have an air release pattern on it. And I don't know, there you go. You can see that. See those small grid-like looking dots on there? That's the air release pattern that you would find on typical vinyl wrap, to include other brands like Avery or 3M. As far as applying the vinyl, so I'm going to take it off this sheet here. So I'm just doing this a nice easy surface. Since this is intended to be vinyl wrap, it is supposed to be repositionable. So put it down. You can hear it is extremely rough surface. Definitely don't want to rub your knuckles against that, because you will burn it. It's like sandpaper almost. Super rough, intended to be durable, super durable. A lot like bed liner that you would find on trucks. So apply that there, apply that to the surface there. I can imagine using your squeegee, you'll probably eat up your buffers super fast. So you may end up using your hard edge. So I'm just applying it down with this squeegee and buffer. Super easy. That's a very flat surface, not a problem. As far as vinyl wrap, automotive vinyl wrap is intended to be repositionable and removable. So let's test that. This is a very glossy surface, as you can see in the video or saw before I applied this, and so meaning it does have a high surface energy, or in other words, the the adhesive will grab, should grab very well and very hard to the surface. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab at an edge here and peel it, and it is peeling up pretty nicely. No sticky residue that I can feel on the countertop here, and it peels off fairly easily. Not a problem there. Alright, so as far as repositionability, it seems to be just like any other vinyl wrap for automotive use, where it's intended to be repositionable, where you can apply it, move it if you need to, and then reposition it. So I just reapplied it again, grab the edge, and pull it up. So it actually does, it's fairly low tack, even though the adhesive feels kind of sticky, and the adhesive has a weird feel to me where it feels sticky, but it feels like it should be leaving a residue on your fingers, but it doesn't. So that's kind of a unique thing about this vinyl here. All right, so peel that back up. Just to give you a comparison, I'm going to lay this piece of Avery SW900. You can see this is super thin and very, very floppy. Almost like, I don't know, plastic cling wrap floppy. This, while it will be floppy, it's definitely not very paper-like. It's very, I don't know, firm, if you will, in its floppiness. It's the best way I can describe it at the moment. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. I'm going to apply this just for comparison's sake. You can see that vinyl applies nice and easy. Avery is one of my favorite vinyls to use because it's just so easy to use. I got a little bubbles in there. I'm applying it down. Now the difference here, Avery is a pressure activated adhesive, whereas Vvivid traditionally, and I'm not sure if this new line is a heat activated adhesive, meaning once you hit it with heat, their adhesive tends to bond harder, whereas Avery and 3M is pressure activated, so when you give it some pressure, it tends to bond to whatever surface pretty hard. So now that I've applied that nice and flat, try to pick an edge, and you can see this Avery actually was grabbing harder than the Vvivid was to the same surface. All right, so that's that. Let's test out the how it conforms to mild curves for the next part of the video. All right, for this part of the video, I'm just going to show the application around this curved part of the of my countertop here. So I'm going to apply it to the flat edge. Get my squeegee, apply that down, nice and flat. Get out any air bubbles if I can find them. One thing I am noticing that this is a super thick vinyl, so if you have any kind of recesses that you might use as a cut line or ridges or anything that if you want to try to emboss something, I highly doubt that you'll be able to do that. All right, so it seems to conform around this easy curve pretty nicely. And so you could probably, if you really wanted to add some sort of a tough layering to your countertop, this may actually be a pretty good option to do so. So that was just a simple, mild, easy curve. Let's try something a little bit more complex. So in the last section of the video, I did a easy test of wrapping the indestructible vinyl around a fairly mild and easy curve. So let's take a look at wrapping around a more complex curve, such as the corner of this laptop, for example. So with regular automotive vinyl, what you could do is you would apply the vinyl, lay it down so it's nice and secure, and then once you reach the corner, many would typically pull it back a little bit, give it a little bit of a cold stretch, and conform it around the corner of in this case, the laptop. Could be the corner of your fender, it could be the corner of your bumper, but same principle applies there. So you can see that I have got a nice corner shape here, and then here I actually have a section of the laptop where I can create a guideline, because this would actually be cut out since this is in a sense a separate piece. Now, once you wrap that corner, vinyl wrap installers will hit it with a little bit of heat to shrink it back. So I'm going to do that now. What I've got, I don't have my heat gun with me immediately, so I do have a torch. So I'm going to be very careful and just hit it with a little bit of heat. You can see the vinyl shrinking back. Now that that vinyl has shrunk back, I'm just going to make sure it's molded around. And basically I shrunk wrap that corner. And then what a vinyl wrap installer would do then next is basically trim it out by cutting underneath the corner. See if I can lift this up so I can cut better. Kind of at a weird angle and trying to do this on the video as well. So there's a natural seam right here. Try to draw that out with my fingernail. And that's where I typically would cut and trim. Flip the tip of my blade in that natural seam. So this is a little awkward as I don't typically cut away from myself when I'm doing vinyl wrap. So now that that's cut, or not, I didn't cut all the way through apparently. I'm trying to be very careful since this is a laptop and it's not exactly the cheapest. Okay. Doing a bad job here, guys, sorry. Alright, so it's for demonstrational purposes only, right? Okay, so cut off the excess, and so now I have a nice clean corner there. Hit it with a little bit of heat. Alright, so the seat corner is nice and clean. Alright, so that's just to demonstrate how with regular automotive vinyl wrap you would work around a corner. Very quick, very rudimentary. I would take more time typically to do this a little bit better, but I just wanted to demonstrate how that would work. And then for here, before I peel this off all the way, if you did have a section, what you would do is then take your blade and trim, and I can use the gap as my guide for my knife, to guide my knife through without cutting anything there. So there, I can see I peeled it that way. Again, this is a traditional automotive vinyl wrap, in this case Avery, which is very thin relative to some other vinyl wraps, and so easy to be able to find those lines and stretch and conform. So with this super thick, 20 times thicker vinyl indestructible wrap, let's see how it might take a corner here. Alright, so already, and what I'm going to test a little bit here is its stretchiness, as far as being able to, remember on the last one I gave it some heat and curved it over the edge there. So I'm going to try to do the same here. I've got it applied, and you can already see right away that there's no way I can find that line right here. This is so thick and such a rough texture, there's no way I'm going to find that line to be able to cut that piece out. So in this case, I wouldn't even bother doing it. It's not necessary to do in this particular application. So I'm going to hit this with a little bit of heat to soften it up. You can see I'm using very short bursts of heat because heat guns do put out a lot, or excuse me, torches do put a lot of heat out. So I'm giving it a good stretch around this corner, and you can see that it did conform a little bit around the corner, but doesn't seem to be sticking so well. Whereas the Avery stuck really good to that. Let me try peeling this piece back up. Try a smaller section here, so I don't have quite so much. Give it a little bit of heat. Okay, And what that does is softens the vinyl so that it's more, now you can see it's stretching and moving more. Oh, adding a little bit of heat makes this way more gooey, if you will, and stretchable, it looks like. Hooking that around, pressing the edge to make it stick, but it looks like it's popping back up. So let me see if I can mold this around the rest of the edges here. Okay, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of heat to shrink it back. Alright, so I don't want to hit this with too much heat because it is a laptop versus a metal car fender. But you can see it's popping back up a little bit here. So because of, again, I think because of such low tack vinyl here. But what I did notice is giving it some heat, this is way more stretchy. Definitely more stretchy right in this area here. I don't know if you can see that or not. Alright, versus say here, where it's pretty darn firm. This, which is still a little bit warm. See, it's kind of stretching and pulling. Alright, so in this case, probably the best thing to do would wrap up to the edge of the laptop and then basically use the side edge of the laptop as your guide and trim away. So now I'm trying to trim away and I'm holding my blade off to the, at an angle away from the side of my laptop so I don't cut the top, and making sure my blade is, it's a new blade so it's super sharp. So it does cut pretty good. It is definitely thicker than trying to cut regular vinyl like the Avery that I was just using, but it does cut nice and smoothly, it feels like. It does have a little bit more resistance, as you would expect, being approximately 20 times thicker than standard vinyl. And then I'm just using a standard technique where I'm giving a little bit of tension as I'm cutting, so that the cut is nice and clean and nice and straight. So let's just, that's a little jaggedy there, but cut this off now. So here's an impromptu demonstration of how it cuts. So it does slice very well, or slices fairly easily, but you'll definitely want to make sure your blade is super sharp, because even with this brand new sharp X-Acto knife blade, you can see it's pretty it is pretty durable. Indestructible against the X-Acto razor sharp blade? No. But it definitely puts up a fight, I can tell that already. Just trying to cut this vinyl with that. If I compare that to regular vinyl, so here is a piece of regular Vvivid Vinyl. This is actually in their premium line as well, like this Indestructible Vinyl. This is their matte metallic charcoal gray, if I recall correctly. So let me peel a little piece here, and I'll just show you how easily the same knife cuts through this way thinner vinyl than it did the Indestructible Vinyl. So you can see, slices right through it with hardly any resistance. I have a feeling that because of the super rough texture and thickness of this vinyl here, that your blades will probably dull a little bit faster than typical. Alright, so let's do some durability and indestructible-ness tests of this vinyl. So you see I did a little bit of cutting demonstration already. So what I can do is I'll put this on my countertop here. Move this laptop out of the way a little bit. Right, and then slice through. It sliced through. I don't see any scratches or anything alike on my countertop there. So that's just a real quick one for that. But let me get set up with a indestructible-ness test, where I will be testing things such as punctureness and abrasion. Alright guys, in this part of the video I'll be testing the indestructible-ness of Vvivid's Indestructible Vinyl against a regular wrap cast vinyl. In this case that is also a Vvivid brand Premium Plus line regular automotive cast. It's matte metallic charcoal gray. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pushing in with my finger as a test. I'll try to puncture it with a Phillips head screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and a pen, maybe the side of my squeegee, the hard edge side of my squeegee, and then eventually with a knife just see how it punctures. Alright, and so as far as durability, I'm just going to push it with my finger, and you can see it's pretty tough, right? My finger definitely is not going to go through that, and that's cold. I've got a little bit of tension on here and it doesn't really give too much as far as stretch goes. I do have, again, tension on here. Now that I've stretched that, let's give it a little bit of heat. Try to bring it back to its original shape. Alright, so for here, I can take my finger and push it in and leaves a fingerprint, as you can see in the vinyl there. This one, pushing hard, basically comes back. No fingerprint there. But again, great thing about wrap cast vinyl, get some heat, activate its memory effect. There you go. Alright, I'm going to let that cool off for now. Make sure this is cool. It's a little bit warm from the heat I gave it there. Alright, so let's try testing it by poking it with a ballpoint pen. Right now I don't have the ballpoint poked out. So I'm giving a decent amount of force. And it's not puncturing through. I'm sure I can push through it if I really pushed onto it. But if you think about it, if you applied this to, say, the side of your car, it's not going to stop anything from puncturing through, I wouldn't imagine. It's more against, or even stop something that's going to ding the metal of your car, because this is just a skin. It's not an armored plate, for example. It will, I'm pretty sure that with the thickness and the roughness and durability of this so far, that anything that might normally or typically scratch the paint of your car, this is going to stop that. You can see I'm pushing pretty decently, right? And so if I did the same thing through that vinyl, straight through it, same force, or at least I believe the approximation of same force that I'm using to push. Actually, I'm probably pushing harder on this to try to see if I can push through it. Alright, and you saw that it popped right through this. Alright, now let's put the pen point out and see how it works. Oh, it did puncture. That did puncture now that I have a sharp point, but again, that's a sharper point versus a flat dull point. Right, so of course you know what's going to happen with this, right through it. And I'm barely putting any force to puncture through that. Right? This one, I do have to give it some force. Now that it did an initial puncture hole, pilot hole, if you will, and then I was able to push through. If I take off the point, and now it's flat. All right. So, what about a flathead screwdriver? I imagine it's probably going to be about the same. Although this is kind of a blade shape, so maybe it will cut through. There you go. I did have to push pretty hard to do that. You can kind of see that I'm giving a good, and you can see the amount of give that it's going through first before finally puncturing through. Same thing here, but I'm barely pushing, guys, on this one. But again, this is 20 times thicker than this vinyl. Alright, so let's take a look at this Phillips head one. So this definitely has a point to it, as you can see. It'll focus. So I imagine it's probably going to do like the ballpoint pen when I extended the pen part of it. So I'm pushing, oh, and there it goes. Pushing, oh, there it goes. Push, right through it. Right through it. Right through it. So even though you can push through with sharp objects into this vinyl, you can tell right away that this is definitely way more tough than standard vinyl wrap. You can see those two little, see how I'm making little dots in it? Don't even see them in this. Scratch testing. Yeah, this will take scratches. Somebody who tries to scratch your car with a key, probably not going to happen. We're probably not going to see anything. Deal with this. You can see I basically sliced the vinyl with the tip of this and broken it through. And I'm doing what feels to me the exact same amount of force. All right. So we know that this can take some sharp objects, but eventually if you keep pushing, it's going to push through. All right, so let's just do a blunt blade object here. This plastic blade of my plastic hard edge of my squeegee. Nope. Does it make lines? Yes, you can see that. And look, I'm pushing in the compromise area where I already have holes in it. If I push here, actually the tip of my squeegee is actually bending against this. I don't know if you can see that bend now on my squeegee. All right, but for this, you can see definitely way more indentation in the vinyl. Oop, oh, that was compromised, so that wasn't really a fair push there. All right, and then ultimately a knife. If somebody comes up with a knife on your car or a vinyl, it's probably going to cut your vinyl regardless. So, boom, I did push in and sliced. Then you saw, boom, yeah. So a razor sharp, super pointy blade, gonna go right through it. It's gonna slice it, just like that. Okay, just like regular vinyl will do. So there's gonna be, even though this is billed as indestructible, it's intended basically to provide a much more durable, thicker, rugged layer protection as compared to regular vinyl wrap would. Vinyl wrap, in this case color change vinyl wrap, is more or less intended to be exactly what it is, change the color of your car without actually painting it. But at the same time, it does have the side benefits of adding a little bit of light scratch resistance. Certainly won't stop anything from dinging your car, as you can see. This one may stop some things from dinging your car, depending on what it may be. But it will definitely stop it from scratching it, as you saw. Definitely not going to get any paint scratches or key marks there. All right, so hopefully this gives you guys an idea of how thick and how durable this vinyl wrap is. As you saw, it does apply nicely to flat surfaces, flat high energy surfaces, like regular vinyl wrap. It is repositionable. If you do hit it with a little bit of heat, it does stretch. It does stretch. So this is the hot part that was hot, that stretched, and then this part was cold, and it doesn't stretch very much at all because it's cold, thick, and it adds full strength. With heat, it softens it up, and you can stretch it and conform it. I'll have to do some more tests, maybe try wrapping some cars, but hooking around a corner like the corner of the laptop, you saw that while it went around, it didn't necessarily stay quite as well. I could keep trying, and maybe I just didn't do it right, but I did it. That's why I did the application of regular vinyl first, so you could see what the process would be, and that I did the exact same process with this, but it didn't quite. It conformed around it, but not necessarily to the same degree as regular wrap cast vinyl. Alright guys, so that's just a quick and dirty review of testing the indestructible-ness of Vvivid's new Indestructible line of vinyl wrap. I've got a project coming up with this to use this vinyl wrap on something that would typically take some use and abuse, and so adding a protective layer, a skin layer, might help increase its longevity. Again, probably won't stop any dings or bangs or dents that would happen to it, but definitely mitigate or significantly reduce or eliminate any typical scratches that may occur on the surface of the project. So hopefully you found this video to be informative and helpful, kind of give you an idea if you're thinking about looking for or using or buying this vinyl as far as its indestructible-ness. It seems like there could be multiple uses. It's billed as automotive vinyl wrap, but as you saw, you could apply it to, for example, countertops if you needed to make a more durable countertop. Just apply that roll around the edge, and then in this case, for example, let's just imagine this is fully wrapped. You can slice that off here. Let me get a good angle on it actually. So imagine doing that. One thing it does kind of feel like is like non-slip or grip tape, actually, based on one, its color, but it's also its thickness and ruggedability or ruggedness of it. So maybe this would be a good application to put on, say for example, stairs that are heavily traveled. Make sure you wrap this over the front edge so that when feet hit it, it doesn't pick at the edges there, and that would add a nice durable finish, if you will, to the stair itself. Alright guys, again, so if you found this video to be helpful and informative, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Thanks guys.